Hey everybody, welcome back. Last week we talked a little bit about the blocks to self assertiveness, and we talked about the fact that we need to achieve self-awareness. We need to monitor our own thought patterns, right? And then being able to teach and utilize assertiveness in all of our relationships. So today we're going to focus in on being that self-aware piece, right? Most of the time, most of us are pretty aware of everybody else and what's going on. Sometimes we don't take the time for that inner reflection of figuring out how we really feel about something, right? And so early on, we internalize good behavior or bad behavior, right? That's something that we do pretty early. Whether it's a teacher, whether it's parents, whether it's a friend or a sibling, helping us to start to internalize what kind of behavior that is, right? As we grow and we are in our youth, right, we figure out what thoughts and feelings can be shared, right, and what types maybe shouldn't be shared. This is the part that I love about children, right, is everything is shared, right? The honesty of children, right? But as we get into those teenage years, we start to feel like there are things that we cannot share or things that can be shared, right? And so we tend to absorb these rules from parents and other role models that are in our life at that point, right? So we're on this continuum of self-awareness, and we forget that these rules are not cast in stone, right? This is the environment that I grew up in, right? These are the rules that my family had, but they're not cast in stone. And we can change them if we consciously desire, right? And so there's an exercise. This is a book that we've been following, which is Easy to Love, Difficult to Discipline, right? And on page 77, there's an exercise that can help us become aware of certain beliefs, right, that block our efforts to be assertive. So I just want to go through and read those to you. And if you have the book, again, it's on page 77. But passive aggressive beliefs, right? You should have an appropriate response for every situation. Not really. Sometimes things catch us off guard, right? And it's okay. It's okay that we don't have a response for every situation. Mistakes are shameful, right? Especially if someone's feelings are hurt, right? Mistakes are learning moments for us. And there are going to be feelings that are hurt, but it's right. It's that intention, right? I love to try to extend people mercy, and I've not always been good at that, right? But extending people mercy to be able to say, wow, they really are having a bad day because they were kind of grouchy back there, right? Or my favorite one right now is when people, when I'm the customer, right, and I'm at the drive-through, or if I'm inside the store or the restaurant or something, and they never say thank you, right? I must admit that sometimes I'm like, you're welcome. But really I'm trying to extend mercy and say, thank you so much. And they're all like, you're welcome. And I'm like, no. You're supposed to be telling me. Right? And so I'm not very good at extending mercy, but I want to get better at it. Right? The third one is it's selfish to put your own needs first. Right? Sometimes in different cultures, we have felt that we should just be serving everybody, and and then pretty soon our serotonin level is completely down and we're in a depressed heap on the floor, right? So here again, these are passive aggressive beliefs. You should not waste others' time with your problems. They have problems too. Yeah, they do. We all have problems, right? But we're here to help each other. So there again, that's a passive aggressive belief. When someone is in trouble, you should always, is that always, right? Remember, we have to think about those words. Always, never, right? We should always help him or her. No, that's pretty passive aggressive, right? We can help them depending on what's going on, but always is the trigger there. If you cannot convince others that your feelings and opinions are reasonable, then your feelings must be wrong, right? No, actually, no. My feelings are right, they're just different than yours. You should be intuitively sensitive to the needs and wishes of others. Gosh, wouldn't that be nice? But folks, we were all raised in different homes, with different families, with different environments. No, we're not going to be able to be intuitively sensitive to the needs and wishes of others all the time. Always try to accommodate others so they will like you, right? People pleasing. My friend Emma, Therapy in a Nutshell on YouTube, has a great video out on people pleasers, right? There are frankly people in the world that are not going to like us, and that's okay, right? We have a good group of people who do like us, but we're not going to accommodate so they will like us. You should always be logical and consistent. There again, trigger word, always, right? There's going to be times that we're not logical and consistent. I think I've said this on one of the other past videos, but I love when I teach a parenting class, when the mother said, if I'm sick, I go into permissive mode, right? And they can watch anything, they can eat anything, but I'm sick. I'm trying to take care of myself. She said, as soon as my sickness is over, then I come back to the authoritative mode. And she said, but I give myself that break to recognize, I'm sorry, you guys, I'm sick right now. We can't be having this conversation. We can't be doing this, right? Give myself a break and then come back to it. Knowing that you have done something well is its own reward. People do not like show-offs, right? It's okay to pat yourself on the back, right? If you pat yourself on the back all the time, then we might have an issue, right? But there again, that's a passive-aggressive belief. You should always have a good reason for what you say, feel, and do. I don't know how many times I've said, you know what, I'm not sure why I'm feeling this way, but this is what I'm feeling right now. Right? Being able to kind of self-reflect on that and not expect everybody to understand. And the last one that's on the list is, if you are criticized, you have been rejected as not good enough. Right? I like to think of it as you're not the right fit for the puzzle. Right? So that's an assertive belief rather than a passive-aggressive belief. With my teachers, I often say, when they didn't get a job, you know what, that's okay, because you weren't the right fit for that puzzle that they were looking for. And so you're going to be a good fit for a puzzle later on. Sometimes the kids have trouble with this. They won't let me play, Miss Dory. They don't want to be my friend today. They said maybe tomorrow, right? Yeah, maybe tomorrow. We're going to try again tomorrow, because they may be in a bad mood today, or they may be wanting to play with somebody else. But tomorrow we're going to try this again. Right? So helping children understand how they can work away from those passive-aggressive beliefs. So one of the skills that Dr. Bailey talks about is finding 2 of these passive-aggressive beliefs and saying, I want to eliminate those. And then finding 2 assertive beliefs that you want to replace with those, right? So I'm just going to read these quickly. You have a right to make mistakes. We all do. Mistakes, not perfection, are part of being human. You have a right to put yourself first sometimes, right? This models responsibility as we're modeling for the children that are in our lives. You have a right to ask for help and emotional support. This gives others the opportunity to request help and support, right? It's that give and take situation, right? It's hard for me to ask people for help if they have never asked me for help, if we've never had that volley back and forth. But it's nice to be able to say, oh, they'll ask me and I'll ask them. You have a right not to take responsibility for others' problems. They're strong, right? I know you can do this. You've got the skills. I'm here for a listening ear, but this is not my problem. My sister and I say, not my monkey, right? And recognizing that we want to give the power back to them. We don't want to take that away from them. You can think and feel the way you want to and accept your feelings and opinions as legitimate, regardless of other people's reactions, right? Not everybody's going to agree with us, right? But we can feel the way that we want to, regardless of what's going on here. You should not be expected to be able to read minds or figure out other people's needs and wishes. There again, I have a teacher that I work with, get out of my brain, she'll say. Right? Because we are on the same wavelength, but that doesn't happen very often. And so recognizing that It's not an expectation for people to read our minds, right? Shouldn't be an expectation, at least. Sometimes I think it is. You have a right to say no. Had a situation this last week that was happening in my life, and usually I say yes to most musical things, but I had to say no in this situation. And I had to talk myself through that, right? Because normally I would say yes. I love to help out in musical situations, but I just had to say no because some other situations were going on. And I had to talk myself through that, right? Um, and so being able to self-talk yourself through those things. You have the right to change your mind. You have a right to receive recognition for your work and achievements. I'm reading the book right now called The Year of Yes by Shonda Rhimes, who is the writer for Grey's Anatomy. And I'm not a Grey's Anatomy, I haven't ever watched it, but I love what Shonda has to say about, so many times we, as people, she specifically talks about women, but we as people don't know how to accept compliments, and we just brush it off and, duck our head and pass the buck, so to speak. And she said, why do we do that? We're good human beings. I remember I had a friend in high school that wrote me a letter once, and she said, I always feel like a heel when I give you a compliment because you never can say thank you. And that was an early lesson for me to be able to say, it's okay for me to say thank you. God's given me these talents, God's given me these gifts, and it's okay to say thank you and move on, right? We don't need to dwell on it, but recognize that we do have gifts and talents. You do not have to justify and defend yourself to others. As well as the last one, you have a right to hear feedback and to filter out that which is of no value to you. We all appreciate feedback, right? But we do have a right to filter that out. So that's my goal this week, right? Is to eliminate 2 off the passive aggressive belief side and replace them with 2 off the assertive belief side. So as you continue to work on being self-aware, what are you feeling inside? That would be something that you could do this week, is to look at that. I hope it's a great week for you all as we are navigating different forces and different circumstances in our life. We can do hard things. The kids remind me of that. Miss Dory, we can do hard things. Yes, we can. We've been talking about it. We can do it. So let's do hard things this week as we think about being more assertive in our relationships with others. Make it a good week, everybody.